in the past so we can create a new possibility, a new future, and live the life that we incarnated to bring about this lifetime. Hi, I'm T.S. Hall, the Stoic Medium, and I'm the Spiritual Director of Spirit360 Fellowship. At Spirit360 Fellowship, we help old souls rediscover spirit. And by spirit, what we mean is that spiritual part of ourselves, that part of ourselves that lives after we die. But we also mean our spirit guides and teachers, those entities that chose to help us this lifetime accomplish what we incarnated to accomplish. Once we reconnect and rediscover and open the portal to our spirit selves and to the spirit realm, we can then reignite our spirit for living and begin to allow ourselves to create happiness and a thriving life. A little technical adjustment here, sorry about that. Technological karma. As I mentioned, I'm T.S. Hall, and I'm the Stoic Medium. I'm a spiritual teacher who helps you accelerate your spiritual awakening by applying scientific methodology and scientific methods to spiritual practices so you can excel as psychics and healers and do so in a way that's verifiable for yourself and by others. If you're new here, consider subscribing to our channel. And if you would like to have an invitation to next week's interactive service, find the link, go to spirit360.org and complete the form, join our community, and you'll receive an invitation to our interactive service, which happens after this live stream event. And we will do some stillness meditation, conduct a healing visualization for our own self-healing. We will conduct an absence healing service where you can send healing to some friends and loved ones. And we will also conduct a spiritualist messages service where each attendee is offered a message from our spirit guides and teachers. Enough of all the business. Okay, let's talk about leaving the past in the past where it belongs. You know, as we start to become aware, as we grow up, we have all these stories that we live our life by. We inherit some of the stories from our parents, from our loved ones. We also create our own. And the way these stories get created is something happens, we make a decision about what happens, and then we start to live our life based on that belief, based on that set of rules, based on that worldview, based on our experience of what happened. As we create all of these stories, all of these narratives, all of these beliefs, worldviews, and mindsets, we find that some of them work really well to get us what we want in one, maybe two areas of our life, but not in every area of our life. As we expand our world, as our awareness expands, as we begin to experience other people in other places, other tribes, if you will, what worked in tribe 1 may not work in tribe 2. And what works in tribe 2 may not work very well in our high school tribe, or our work tribe, or our sports tribe. So we have these stories, and these stories are our personal truth, our personal belief, our personal worldview. Then we also have our tribal beliefs, our tribal worldview, our tribal experiences. And for us to thrive in any given tribe, we have to play by the rules of the game. Otherwise, we get kicked out of the tribe or we're miserable. Then there's another reality. And this reality is one that spiritual practice, spiritual development, spiritual growth help us to perceive, help us to understand, help us to access. And that is objective truth. A story which is objectively true for everybody. If you look back at history History was written by the victors, the people who won, the people who dominated, the people who survived wrote the history. And they did so in a way that served their tribal truth. And that history is believed and taught to everyone in that tribe and can become personal truths for people. However, there is a difference between history and historicity. Historicity. And historicity are just the facts, ma'am. Joe Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Factual. History interprets what happened. The fact is, a guy named Columbus got on a boat, who was a group of 3 boats, and sailed for Europe and looking for the Far East so they could get a shorter route to finding spices. They found the New World. In your life, you have facts. You have historicity. You were born on a specific day. You were born to specific people. You had your egg and sperm donor. Then you had your mom and your dad. Then you had your teachers. You may have siblings. You have aunts and uncles. Each aspect of that is historicity. Then something happens. And when that something happens, it either worked for you and you liked it and you made up your mind one way, or it didn't work for you and you didn't like it and you made up your mind a different way. Spiritually speaking, it's all perfect. Physiologically speaking, ontologically speaking, psychologically speaking, there may have been a lot to be desired. But as we start to look at all of these past events, your history or the story you've told yourself about the historicity about what happened, we use that information as a set of beliefs, of personal truths, of tribal truths, to help us make decisions about what we're going to do next, what just happened, so we can avoid making the same mistakes twice. Logical, isn't it? Because who in the world wants to make the same mistakes twice? But here's the problem. How many times do we self-sabotage because we only see what we think we see, not what's really there? This happens in relationships all the time. You know, anyone who has had any type of relationship, whether it's a work relationship, a romantic relationship, or a close friendship, and even the relationship we have with ourselves, have experienced some variation of this circumstance. You walk in and you say something, and the person with whom you're in a relationship responds in a way that doesn't make logical sense to what you said. So there's something else going on besides what's happening in the interaction right now. It's cost us marriages. It's started wars. It's had us quit jobs and be fired from jobs. So our history, the stories we live our life by, our beliefs, our personal truths, sometimes aren't factual or objective truth. It's only by allowing ourselves to be present in the moment right here, right now, as some people say, the power of now, that we're able to see things as they really are. And once you begin to have a relationship to life based on what they really are, here, now, in this moment, can we then start to identify? We can't put the past in the past yet. We can't leave the past in the past. Nor do we want to. Our past is our past. We can't change it. But by being aware of, conscious of, and manage for the stories that we've lived our life by, something else becomes possible. Something else is renewed. We call this opening the spiritual eyes of your soul. Because your spirit is energy. Your spirit will continue after this physical body dies off. This soul, which makes the animation of this body possible, the viability of this physical body, ends at some point. Then you get on the other side. And on the other side, you start to review the historicity of your life, the facts, and just the facts. What I'm suggesting, the way to leave the past in the past is to begin the process of reviewing your life, not from a historical, story-based process, but from a history, fact, and figures based. You start to write your historicity, separating out your personal truths and your tribal truths from the objective truth. So I'm going to use a very simple example. A very dear friend of mine named George. And George is a runner. And George is, in my opinion, obsessed with running. The thing about George is he's all over running. He reminds me of the movie With Honors with Joe Pesci and I think Brandon Fraser. And at one point, Joe Pesci's character says, you know, Harvard, he called the Brandon Fraser character Harvard. He says, you know, Harvard, runners don't run to win races. Runners run because they love running. My friend George loves running. And because he loves running, his whole life is organized around him being able to do what he loves most. And he has historical evidence, facts and figures about when he crosses the finish line when he does a competitive race. He started at X place and X time, and he finished at X place and X time. There's usually a photograph. He usually gets a t-shirt. He may get a medal. And then he gets rated and ranked amongst other people in the overall race, but also other people in his age bracket. So the history of George, and if you know George, there's quite a bit of history there. He makes up some doozy stories. But there's also historicity. He's got facts, figures, dates, times, photographs, medals, t-shirts that all are objectively verifiable. Now here's the part that is not good news. Once you decide to take a harsh, cold, just the facts look at your life and start to write your historicity, you're going to find some things that you may uncover that you don't like. And I want to assert, and I want to share with you that that's okay. Because the same stories that had you make that decision will have you judge what happened. And it's only by allowing yourself to emerge, become completely involved with writing down your history. I was born on this day. My first birthday, my second birthday, my third birthday, my first house, my second house, my third house. All the way through every year until you get to now. Remembering and recalling everything you possibly can. But I'm going to put a different context, a different spin on it. I want you to do this inside the 3 R's process, the right meditation, right thought, right action. Because here's the part that is important. The 3 R's process is a simple process. Not at all easy, but quite simple to get you present here now in this moment, accessing the facts, objective reality that you can sift through, not unlike, mining for gold. You got the prospector with the pan and you swirl it around, you put a little water, swirl it around. Oh, there's a nugget of truth. I'm going to keep that one. Oh, there's another nugget of truth. Oh, I'm going to keep that one. Oh, there's some gold dust. I'm going to keep that one because the golden nuggets of truth sink to the bottom. All the stories will float to the top and wash away easily because the truth has a different feeling, a different experience, a different sense, if you will. So as you start to consider this, and I know for many of you, you're very trapped in the reality of your story right now. And if that's the case, I'm going to issue you the words that have haunted me most of my life. since I began my spiritual practices in 1987. So the first set of words are in time and on time. In time and on time. Just like a prospector has to patiently sift through a lot of gravel to find the gold nuggets, you have to sift through a lot of story about your life, story about those around you and their opinion about your life to find those golden nuggets. Now here's how you know it's a golden nugget, and this is indeed gold. If you don't take anything else away from today's talk about leaving the past in the past where it belongs, it's this. The truth, that golden nugget, just feels different. It rings true differently. But you have to sort through your instinct for survival to reach your intuitive knowing so you can hear the difference between what's said, what's being said, and what happened, and sort that all out from your history, your historical stories. So here's what inspired today's talk. Right now, hidden and tucked away in a different room is my 3-year-old granddaughter, Shaylee. And Shaylee's here. And I don't know if you remember 3-year-olds, but if you ask them why they did something, many times they'll say, I don't know. Oh, that's frustrating. Shaylee doesn't have a bad case of I don't knows, but I certainly did. So around 3 years old, you ask why. I don't know. Then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're 30. And when you're 30, your life looks the way your life looks. You've got whatever history you have in relationships, jobs, education, personal wealth and finance, career, spiritual growth. You have this whole history. At this moment in time, you've been driven mostly by your beliefs. Because for most people, until they reach around 30, they haven't really examined in their life what's important. But usually by 30, there's been some good things and bad things, and we start to really look at things like appreciating our parents. We start to look at things about, well, maybe that's not going to work this time. You hear yourself in your head saying, is this my future ex? When you go on a first date, because you're really attracted to them instinctually, animalistically, the pheromones are firing, but something in your inner voice is saying, don't make this mistake again. And around 30, the hormones are starting to be managed. The lust is starting to be managed, and you may actually hear that. Then we get to be about 60. And this is me right now. I'm on the cusp of 60. Lord knows if we make it through 2020, I turned 60 in 2021, by golly, and I'm damn proud. I'm a middle-aged white guy. Born before the internet, born before answering machines or fax machines. I'm old, way old. Certainly feels that way sometimes. But when you get to be about 60, you've been examining your beliefs. And then there's this tendency for a 60-year-old to say, why did that happen? And answer with a justification. So they start to justify why they're broke, why they're fat, why they are on the 5th or 6th marriage, why they drink too much, why they eat too much, why they don't exercise, why they don't have any money. So we start to justify those things. But here's the truth in that justification. Once you start to justify it and you allow yourself to hear what you're saying, if you can be present in the moment here and now through the 3 R's process, you can hear what does not ring true. You can start to hear your own lies, because remember, our whole life has been based on personal truth. And that personal truth was created based on an experience that usually happened before we were 10, 12 years old. So we kept on telling ourselves that truth for time after time after time after time, and that truth became our reality. One way to look at this, if you're cynical, and I've been known to be both cynical and sarcastic, if you tell the lie loud enough and long enough, everyone begins to believe it, even you. So we go into life, we get out of our parents and whoever raised us influencing, and then we start to live our lives. And then we start to live our lives based on the lies we've told ourselves, which has been our personal and tribal truths. When you look objectively at things, if you hop on the scale, you can tell how much you weigh. If you look at your bank account balances, you can tell how much money you have. If you look at your balance sheet with your assets and your liabilities, you can tell what your net worth is. You can look at how many alimony checks you're receiving or writing to see exactly what's going on in your romantic life. You can see whether or not your kids are calling you back or not. And we start to become personally responsible for knowing whether or not that justification is valid or not. Now here's the magic part, and I got a dear friend who is also going through some end-of-life things right now, and somewhere between 60 and the end of your life, in her case it's early 90s, you go from justifying everything to a big old F you. And I mean this in the most loving, kind, spiritually aware, awake, woke state. You just don't care anymore. You just are an FU to the world. Now, allowing yourself to rewrite your story at whatever age you're listening to this right now, inside the context of the 3 R's, being present here now in this moment, seeing things as they really are and as they are not, and writing down your historicity, the facts of what happened, alongside your history, the story you made up about the facts that happened, allows you to get to the FU stage more quickly. And once you get to the FU stage, not caring what anyone thinks, doing you, boo, allowing you to be you, express you, have experiences that you want because you want them and for no other reason. That's spiritual freedom. That's emancipation. And in that process of reconciling how you have to deal and train your physical body to be present here and now, something else happens. You have an opportunity to experience a spiritual awakening. Now here's the harsh part about a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is a historical fact. On this day, on this time, I had this experience which was out of this world. Then life started happening again. I like to compare spiritual awakening to sexual orgasms. They happen. They're wonderful. But that's not the whole story, is it? For some people it is. They work so hard to get the orgasm, they forget all the other stuff. Some people work so hard to get a spiritual awakening, they forget all the other stuff. But guess what? Life is all the other stuff. Once you allow yourself to do the work, to rewrite your life, to close the chapter on every story that you've experienced in your life, and reframe it inside the facts and just the facts, and stay present now, related to what so, making decisions that are actionable now, then taking that action, the 3 R's, right meditation, right thought, right action, then something miraculous happens. You find yourself alive. You find that you're happy again. You find you're thriving. Now, your circumstances haven't changed. Right now, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and people are dying left and right. People are worried about dying. People are defying the request by the government, the orders by the government to stay inside. So those facts right now are not going to change. Some people are very much worried about where their next paycheck's coming from. They're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, and they don't know what life holds for them. Certain facts we cannot change. Historicity. Spiritually speaking, who we are in the face of those facts. What options we find ourselves capable of embracing. Our experience in the moment when chaos exists all around. That's your spiritual growth. That's your spiritual opportunity. That's the opening the spiritual eyes of your soul. Because once you open the spiritual eyes of your soul and once you really get grounded in the reality of objective truth, something funny happens. you realize that this isn't your first pandemic. You realize that in your spiritual history and historicity, you've survived many horrific times, places, and experiences. And you still incarnated and came back here for more, because there's a reason we're here. The reason we're here is to help you attain individual spiritual perfection, nirvana, if you will. And you need certain pieces of a puzzle to help you see the whole picture and experience the whole picture and know all there is to know, experience all there is to know. So allowing yourself to get into the bigger spiritual picture and allow yourself to be present in this moment, here now, rewriting the story of your life based on historicity, the facts. And then when you've got a very bad circumstance and a very bad situation, allow yourself to be the hero in the story, to transcend your hardships, to transcend the problems, to transcend what's wrong, and to kill off the villain, because most of the time our history, our personal truth and tribal truth are based firmly in the realm of delusion, thinking something is what it is not. And it's once we start to accept that the villain for the most of our life and most of our decisions and most of our things we do is within, from a diluted sense of what we think is happening rather than without, then we have an opportunity to step inside a very powerful place, a place of responsibility. Not fault, responsibility. Ability to respond. And once you get to that place, that ability to respond, and you are informed both by your intuitive knowing and your instinctual survival, then you have all the information you need to make the choice about what's next. For me, the spiritual awakening process is becoming profoundly related to the answers to these three questions, the only three questions that matter in your life. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Because it's the where you're going that will get you past this pandemic. It's the where you're going that will help you transcend the problems right now. It's that picture in your mind's eye of the future that allows you to pull yourself through hard times. But until you're able to know why you're here and who you are, which is redefining the story of your life, redefining the history of your life based in the historicity of what happened and what you made that story up about what happened, then something else becomes real for you. And that's Spirituality 101. So as we begin to wrap this up, and I know I've been talking around in circles, it seems, but until you get to the point where you can sort through everything I've said to hear what I spoke instead of what you thought I spoke, then something more interesting becomes possible. All right, let's see if I missed anything else. That's about it. So I want to encourage you to do two things. I want you to sit down and embrace the 3 R's. Sit down, meditate. Sit down, take your journal, and rewrite your history, seeing things as they really are or inside of right thought. And I want you to really plan your next actions based on what's so instead of your opinion about what's so. And in every sense of the word, I want you to really look at any story. I can't remember whether. Any fairy tale. If you look at any fairy tale, it ends with the thing. Most of them end in the phrase, happily ever after. And that's what we're all here for. That's the most we can hope for, is a happy ending. And this isn't a pun about spiritual awakening. I really want you to know that when you see where you're going, and you embrace the FU attitude and you do things what you want to do because you want them to do, the only rules around the FU attitude is you can't harm yourself and you can't harm anyone else. You have to walk your path harm-free. You really can create that happy ending, that happily ever after. And that's what we're here for. That's what you incarnated for, is to have the experiences, to create the objective reality based on all the limits of a physical human body, to allow your spirit self to be rediscovered, to be able to connect with your spirit guides and teachers and do so with a level of veracity, a level of verifiable truth. So you never are ever concerned about what your next step should be, where it will take you. But you have to be willing to do one thing and one thing only. Start. And we start with meditation. Please leave me your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Any questions you have. I invite you to visit us at Spirit360.org and join our Spirit360 Fellowship community. After you join the community, you'll receive an invitation to join us for our interactive spirit service. We're conducting that on Zoom. Surprise. And most of all, give us a like if you think this is useful. Give us a thumbs down if you think that this was a waste of your time. We're a brand new channel. We're trying to get out this ministry, this spiritual truth, these golden nuggets, if you will, to help people. And if that's helpful, it's good for us to know. If it's too long, too much, whatever, let us know that too, because we're here to serve you. That's all that matters. If you haven't done so, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the little bell so you are notified of any one of our spiritual services or lessons. We typically put out new content on Wednesdays and Sundays, technology allowing. With that, I'll see if you join us in the live service and the interactive service. I'll see you over there. And until next time, my highest blessings.